right, I'm gonna mute up, and I'm gonna hand this over to Daphne so she can start the podcast. So here we go. It's all yours.
Man, it's just like boom, boom, boom. I was just gonna say hello, but absolutely, I guess you know how credit likes to get things done. So with that, you guys, I'll say hello to Kenner, but also hello to everyone. Welcome to RainMakers Power Hour with none other than Credit Ninja, Wendy Butler, and myself, Daphne Christine. Today we have Kenner French coming on with us to speak, and I'm not going to give the full introduction. I just want to give kind of a quick synopsis of what we do here in the RainMakers Power Hour. You guys, most of you know that join us every single week. We're here Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we record live on the Chatter app exclusively. We then blast it out to all the other social platforms, including YouTube, where it will be evergreen and uploaded every single week. So please make sure you come back and see us next week. But for today, I'm going to hand it over to Wendy, our host. Wendy Butler, over to you.
Thank you for that introduction, Daphne. As always, good job. And today we want to especially welcome our guest, Kenner French with Vast Solutions Group. Woo. And he is a global AI specialist, and going to be talking to us a lot of subjects dealing with AI today, including tax strategies, which of course everyone, you know, if you own a business right now, you're feeling the heat that's coming up due. And so he's going to talk to us about ways to save on your taxes, as well as getting into some things like using AI for podcasting and just in general in finance. Those are going to be some of the topics coming up. But I want to hand it over to Credit, who has known Kenner for a long time, and tell me how you guys met, how you know Kenner, and tell us about how you have gotten to know each other over all the years.
Oh, thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Daphne, for that amazing introduction. But I met Kenner on an app called Clubhouse, and I'm sure some of this is going to be streamed over there. But we spent, the last 3.5 years getting to know each other. We're in and out of a lot of business rooms, a lot of marketing rooms, just a lot of social rooms on that app. And Kenner has always been amazing at moderating these rooms relating to tax strategies. And today he's going to really point out some new features that are out there, the technologies that's available to even make that strategy even stronger. And again, I want to do a disclaimer. Definitely every situation varies. And so do check with your financial expert, because this is this particular program, we're going to do a lot of broad strokes, but definitely do your homework. And we're going to put Kenner's link on top. You can always follow him here, follow him on Instagram. And I also encourage everyone in the audience, stay in touch with us. We always promote the room a day before or during that day on Instagram and Twitter. So follow Wendy, myself, Daphne, and the guests, and anybody else in this room that you resonate with. And with that, I'm going to hand it to Kenner to introduce himself and bring that to a final point and what his specialty is.
Yeah, my specialty is helping to make people money and save money. How's that sound? It's as simple as that. And I'll just jump to the first point, which I think will add value to the people who are watching and listening to this. A lot of people don't realize that they're using ChatGPT, as an example, Claude, Gemini, etc., artificial intelligence or large language models, and they could be getting back money from the government. And I'm talking not deductions, but specifically tax credits. Just like Wendy and I were talking about earlier today, a lot of people don't realize that. The government has had this program since the 80s. They could be writing you a check, in effect, because you're trying artificial intelligence, or example, ChatGPT. If you're doing a couple little things that are innovative, money could be coming to you, and people just don't realize it, which blows me away. But and the reason I can talk about that, because I've been doing it for years, meaning getting tax credits from the government for doing artificial intelligence. We've been doing AI since really we started in 2010. 2018, we had our own model that helped with tax liability, minimizing tax liability for business owners. So most of the people on here who own businesses could be getting back money from the government, but just for whatever reason, don't know about it, think it's too much work, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm here to tell you guys that, well, you should be talking to your tax provider or us and getting these tax credits back from the government, from your favorite uncle, Uncle Sam.
Your favorite uncle. I love that. No, and that's the thing. I feel like most people don't understand that no matter how good your accountant is or your CPA, you really have to, for whatever industry you're in, you have to ask the right questions or bring the right thing to him to look into. No one can know everything. Am I right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Then the only reason we know about it because we've been doing it for years. But what I would say is it's not a specialty of a lot of tax people. And at the same time, it's pretty technical. But at the same time, if your accountant doesn't know about it, specifically meaning tax credits for artificial intelligence or research and development, go to someone who does. I'm not going to say specifically us, although that would be nice. But if anything, just seek it out. You don't even have to apply. It's not like you have to apply to the government for this. You just do your normal tax filings for your business and you put in a couple of forms. There is some work that goes with it. But anyway, instead of owing whatever, $50,000, whatever the number is, you end up owing, let's just say, $25,000 because you've been doing all this work using ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. It's worth it for you to talk to your tax provider. I'm willing to promise, at least to ask the question.
Can you give us an example of a case that you're going through? Like, for example, this particular, is it a business that usually gets advantage out of it or an individual? Can you give us an example without really naming their names? You can just talk about the industry and the steps that they took and how long did it take? Because we're all interested in saving money because it's not what you make, it's what you take home and what you keep and what you grow. I mean, it's
Yeah. Can I pick on, I hesitate to do this, but I'm going to pick on one of you guys. Wendy and I were just talking about it a little bit. Wendy, you do not have to give the specifics. If you don't want to talk about your specifics, I'm totally good with that. Can we talk in general about some of the ideas you and I talked about? So I'm going to pick on you, basically. Is it okay?
Sure. I'm a little nervous, but yes, go ahead.
Don't be nervous. I'll be gentle. I'll be really gentle. So you told me you're using artificial intelligence, meaning I think you said Chat GPT, correct?
Every single day I'm using it. I'm in real estate. Okay. I mean, we do it we use it for everything, whether it's, descriptions of houses or, just multiple things.
Got it. So you're trying something new in, let's say 2000 and whatever, let's say last year as an example, right? You're trying something new, correct?
Correct. Yeah. About 18 months ago, we started using it.
Even better. Okay. And you didn't know if it was going to work or not, correct?
That's exactly right.
So was it kind of trial and error? It might work, it might not work. You tried to do different things with, as an example, Chat GPT?
Leading the witness. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Look at you. Look at Daphne. Nice. Wow.
Well, that is true. We didn't know if it was going to work. I was working with my marketing guys, and we kind of like to present ourselves in our niche as forward thinking and big, cutting edge marketing and that kind of thing. So when I first heard about it, I thought, okay, we've got to get a jump on this before anybody else and all the things. So yeah, we had to purchase because of course we went the pro version and all the things, but we started using it as basically as soon as we found out about it.
Got it. Great leading the witness. Good job, Daphne. If you're not careful, I'm going to start bugging you too.
No. I get picked on enough, I promise.
Yeah. And would you say that Chat GPT is either math, science, or technology?
Yes, most definitely.
Technology. Yes. So those are the four things. We've gone over. So generally speaking, with whatever you spent, don't tell me the amount. Let's just say you spent whatever, $50,000. Don't tell me the amount. Well, that wouldn't be cool. You have spent money, and you haven't, but you can probably account for it, whatever you spent on that technology in this example, using ChatGPT or whatever technology, correct?
Yes, correct. And would I be able to also say that the person that I hired to help me do it, do I get to use him as well?
No, he's not AI.
Exactly. Is he or she in the U.S., by the way?
Yes.
Yeah. So the answer to that is, let's just say he, as an example, spent let's say you paid him, just make up a number, 100,000. He spent 50% of his time working on this cool new technology, this cool new stuff. Therefore, $50,000 would be eligible for you to get a tax credit, generally speaking, without the specifics. Does that make sense? Because he spent, in this case, 50% of his time doing technology or research and development. Make sense?
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
So likewise, let's say you spent, because you're a big hitter, let's say you spent 10% of your time on research and development or doing this cool new technology. 10% of your salary, generally speaking, federally, would be able to be eligible potentially for a tax or research and development tax credit. Does that make sense?
Really?
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense. And there's a bunch of little rules, but yeah, that's exactly right. And
There
by the
always
way,
are.
I forgot, you live in, I won't say the state, but I can't remember in your state if you're eligible for a tax credit at the state level. You can get both federal credits and state credits. As an example, Florida, as an example, even though they don't have state income tax, we were working with 2 clients who, as an example, they can get state tax credits, even though they don't have a state income tax. They can get state credits for their taxes as it relates to in their circumstances for federal tax credits. So they get both federal and state tax credits. People don't know this stuff, but it can add up to a huge amount. And both those cases, it will add up to a huge amount. We're in the process right now. Does that make sense?
Kenner, it reminds me of, when I'm doing a lot of financial planning for people, they don't see what's available because they're sitting in their own thing. You know what I mean? So unless you have someone looking in, and I call it fresh eyes, they look in and go, okay, well, your business is this, and then you can move this here, you can move there. They wouldn't know all that.
Yeah.
So bringing in an expert is going to actually save them money on the law. It's like found money. Could that be the right word? I mean, I find
Totally.
money all the time.
Spot on, credit.
Yeah.
And it's not like, by the way, it's not like you have to write a bunch of checks for this new R&D. You're already doing it, Wendy or Daphne or Credit or whomever. If you're already doing it, hey, there's a bonus, right? Because again, you don't have to apply to the government. You just do a normal filing that you normally do with your tax returns and add in some forms and some supporting material. Does that make sense? By the way, in your case, Wendy, you mentioned it was 18 months ago that you started. So let's just say it was the year, not the last tax year, but the year before, which it is in your case. You can even go back. People don't realize this. You can go back up to 3 years and get tax credits from, in this case, up to 3 years ago. So meaning it's not as though it's found money. Like Credit said, it's found money in that case.
So do you just file an amendment in that case?
Who said that? But yeah, that's exactly right. It's called an X. That's exactly right. Smart.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What did you say, Daphne?
I like taxes. No, I say you just file an amendment.
You like
File an amendment. Yes. Well, I'm definitely going to be doing that.
You like taxes. And
I
just
like tax strategy as it pertains to
tax
wealth
strategy.
building. I should have been more clear. That's why I think you're so cool, Kenner.
Yeah. I like that. I like definitely say. So, and if you think about it, all you have to do, and I know people don't like accountants in some cases because they're nerdy or whatever, but in some cases, there's 2 things I think that make sense to being a buddy with an accountant. Number one, they'll put your stuff on top of their pile. I know it sounds bad, but it's true. They'll think of you before they think of other people potentially. Number one, and especially like, issues like this, even if they don't know how to do the R&D tax credits, because again, they're technical, but at least they can refer you to someone who does bring your situation to the forefront, and they can lower your tax liability. And again, by the way, tax credits are way better than tax deductions, right? Number one. Number two.
Talk to people that don't know what the difference is.
Good question. So tax credits, generally, you get a dollar for dollar reduction. So let's just say you owe $1 and you get $1 of a tax credit. That means that dollar you owe ends up being $0. You don't owe Uncle Sam anything because it's a dollar for dollar credit. So if you owe $50,000, but you have a tax credit of, let's just say $25,000, the government's giving you $25,000 in tax credits. That's $25,000 that goes towards that tax liability of $50,000. Okay. Versus a deduction, a tax deduction. Let's say you buy a cool computer and it costs $1,000. You have to do a full cash outlay of $1,000, and let's say your tax liability is, generally speaking, 25%. So therefore, you're taking 25% off that $1,000. So therefore, in your pocket, in effect, it's $250 that goes in your pocket. So a dollar for dollar, a tax credit is usually dollar for dollar. Tax deduction is usually a percentage of the dollar you've done as a cash outlay. So meaning tax credits are way better. I mean, theoretically, it could be 75% better in that case versus a tax deduction. And by the way, and what I should say is you don't, on a tax credit, it's not like you have to put out another dollar because you've already spent it usually on, in this case, research and development.
I like that.
Wow.
Research and development. I got to write that down. That's good stuff.
Well,
Ken.
and I
Yeah, I
know
like
That's
one
a good
thing.
one.
Well, I
And it's
know
easy.
one thing. If we're all in this business and the last few years, AI was starting to get on board, we
Right.
have all spent money and a lot
Right.
of time trying to figure this out. I know Wendy
Right.
does
Right.
all the darn videos of us dancing and all that, and she spent hours that
Right.
has taken away from her business. So
Right.
it's lost opportunity because the time that you spend trying to figure out this technology is taking you away. So that's the cost right there that you could take as a tax credit, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Right.
And
people don't.
definitely a learning curve for sure on that. But if you can figure it out, it's pretty spectacular and it does get a lot of attention, which is ultimately my goal in my business is to bring attention to our podcast and to my real estate business, of course. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was worth it, but getting the tax credit for research and development is just icing on the cake, isn't it?
Totally. And by the way, my second point about hanging out with CPAs, even though people think they're kind of nerdy at times, I think CPAs or tax providers, I should say, tax prep providers or strategists, they know a lot of people in their community and they can refer you guys business. I think, Wendy, you're I know you're big time, but maybe you need some new referrals for people who want to buy new houses or whatever. CPAs know who has money and they can refer you to their community of whatever, 1,000 people. So I think it makes sense to spend time with CPAs and tax providers because two things, again, they'll put you at the top of their pile and also they're worth a lot of referrals. They really are. That's the way I look at it.
Well, and Kenner, I want to jump in with that. Like in my business with the credit business, half of my clients come from CPAs, financial planners, and tax attorneys, that thing. So really, you're right. When you surround yourself, I always say you always need a good tax strategist, IRS person, offering compromise to get you out of a jam or prepare to not be in a jam. And number two, a really good lawyer that could handle all business matters and also anything that comes up. They have a network too. So those are the two that I always hold close. But you're right about having a tax person for you.
Yeah, totally. And what's funny is like right after grad school, I hated tax. I absolutely hated tax. I went to Wall Street, did the whole Wall Street thing. I thought tax was it is kind of for crazy people. And then when I wanted to go on my own, I started asking a bunch of business owners what impacted their business the most. And it was tax. Everybody would say taxes. Everyone. And if you think about it, let's say you can lower your tax liability by whatever X, by 20%, right? Automatically, you don't have to make 20% more in the next year to be even. But let's just say you want to grow. The more you lower your tax liability legally, ethically, and morally, the better it is for you because assets grow. I mean, there's very little downside to lowering your tax liability legally, ethically, and morally. And one way of doing that is going back and working with your CPA, your tax provider, to lower your tax liability. It just totally makes sense. Like, here's an example. Let's say someone isn't paying attention to their taxes, whatever. They don't really care, right? And they start out at $100,000 portfolio and they grow 1 year. Let's say they grow at 8%, grows to 108,000. Cool, right? But now let's say someone is slashing their tax bill and they start out at 100,000, but because they've lowered their tax liability by 20,000, it ends up their $100,000 portfolio, let's pretend, goes to 120,000 plus 8% because you're managing the portfolio. So it's 8% on 120, which is better, 128 or 108. Of course it's 128. Usually a tax liability is going to be the biggest expense for a business owner. So why not pay attention to the taxes?
100%.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Credit.
No, it was me. Go ahead, Daphne.
Oh, no, I was just so glad that you had added that spot at the end there, Kenner. You said legally, ethically, and morally. And I just feel like there's so many people that, as soon as they hear taxes, it's, nobody likes them, of course. But then there's a lot of folks that think getting out of taxes, that there's something wrong with that. And I love that you just pointed out that I think that this is really the goal for all of us. And I don't know why I do know why they make it so hard, because if it's hard, then we're all not taking advantage, but we should be, right? We should be. And so I just wanted to share that sentiment. What were you going to say, Wendy? Excuse me.
Yeah. Well, just going back a little bit, Kenner, I was curious to know, you went to school, got your degree in political science and with economics and finance minors, and then in 2018 you started working in AI. I mean, okay, I didn't even hear about AI, like I said, until 18 months ago. So what happened in between you graduating and you getting into this AI? How did you even find out about it that early? I don't know of anyone that was that early in the game.
Yeah, we were early. I started in AI in 2010. We started researching in 2010. Well, I'll back up a little bit. After Harvard, I went to New York City, did the whole Wall Street thing. I started work I was involved in research, and then I kind of fell into working with small business owners when I worked for a company called ING, big international company. I was a consultant for them. That's where I found all these business owners were saying, oh my gosh, it's, tax liability, it's a big issue. So I left, I started in 2006. I went out, bought up a bunch of little investment companies, insurance companies. But at that point, again, that's when I figured out that, if I could lower a tax liability for a business owner, we're good to go, right? So, and then 4 years later, after I basically helped put together vastsolutionsgroup.com based on me buying some companies, I knew that artificial intelligence was going to be a big thing. Business automation was going to be a big thing. Lowering tax liability with machines versus people, I knew it was going to be a big thing. It took until 2014 to write my first real tome, in effect, my first book with AI. But 2018, that's when we put together our first model called Einstein, which helped to lower the tax liability for business owners. That's when I was all in on AI, 2018. And of course, OpenAI came in. But now to back up a little bit, artificial intelligence has been around for a long, long time, but not with the platform of large language models, as would be the case with ChatGPT, et cetera. But that stuff's been around for a long time. OpenAI just did a very good job of, of putting together the large language model. Now, with all that being said, we've been all in. We're now looking at quantum computing, but I'm going to do a sum of all this AI stuff. In my opinion, people have got to use artificial intelligence in every aspect of their business or they will not succeed. I will just say that, and we figured that out pretty early. I'm excited that we figured that out pretty early. And if I can walk away from this, I would say people have got to look at artificial intelligence if they want their business to succeed, or even if they're a W-2 employee, because if they don't, artificial intelligence or someone who uses artificial intelligence will take their business or livelihood away.
I mean, it's so true. And just to your point, my business, we do real estate sales, but we also do real estate development. And then I also represent other developers and landowners that are working with developers coming in. So I had under contract a large piece of property for an out-of-town developer that was backed by a REIT. And they came back and told me that they were going to need an extension of time, as always. They're always looking for more time. But their reason was because in their pro forma, their prompts for their AI computations were off and they knew it. So they had to go back and reevaluate the prompts for their pro forma on this development. And this was the first that I had heard about using it for that. So yeah, I mean, people are using. I thought, heck, I don't even need my engineer anymore. I can just put it in. he's gonna come out with my pro forma. So of course now I'm looking into, hey, let's see how you can use this to get your. Now, of course, I'm kidding about the engineer, but you can get some pretty good initial numbers just using ChatGPT. I mean, I've already been doing it. So what would you say are some of the forward-thinking things that we need to be looking at? What is the future of AI?
Yeah, AI it's going to make it so we're all on a level playing field as far as intelligence. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Meaning, I hate to say this, but anyone could do taxes going forward. Maybe not yet, but soon they're going to be able to do taxes going forward. Anyone could be an investment banker. Anyone could be an attorney. It's going to make knowledge commoditized. Then the question is, if you're like credit as an example, how do you market it? That's going to be the biggest difference. And then how are you creative in that? So, if people are thinking they're all comfortable in their business, there's going to be some curveballs that are going to be thrown at us here in the very near future. Just think about this, like onboarding, marketing. I have a smart marketer right next to me, and that's, as an example, ChatGPT. I have a smart client onboarder, and let's say that's Claude as an example. Or let's say I have a smart customer service group, that's Gemini or Google. That's going to level the playing field for everybody. I really believe that, and it's going to be very soon. And then we have these AI agents that are coming on. That's going to, we're going to have an employee at a touch of a button, and then pretty soon thereafter, let's say in 5 years, we'll have quantum computing that's going to make AI look like a joke. So we're going to have a level playing field. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I
It
love that.
reminds me, I'm sorry, it reminds me of, it's a big paradigm shift. When we had information back then and we had to go to the law library or we have to do the research, you have to go into physical places and pull out categories and stuff. And then the web came on. So we had internet and we're able to search on the internet. And then Google got really strong with all that data. Now the next thing is AI, because now you're eliminating having the shortcut and you don't have to remember things anymore. You don't have to bog your brain down with useless data that AI can grab and then save that mind space to think in a bigger form, to look at the overall picture instead of having to memorize new useless things that may not be helpful in what you need. So AI will take over that part so that we can have higher thinking. What is your thought on that?
You're 100% right. I can't say anything more than that. That's exactly right. Like, let's say, as an example, I wanted to buy a house in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to put certain parameters of, how, whatever, cash flow, values of the per square foot. I'll just be able to put that into my model, and it'll kick out whatever 20 houses that fit my criteria. That's gonna happen. I mean, actually, that's already happening. What am I saying? That's already happening, but it's just not to the widespread public. But it will be soon.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
hearing, excuse me one second, I was just hearing that instead of search engine optimization for your websites, the new up and coming is AI optimization, that it's you have to be putting in those types of things for those searches because it's going to that. And, do you think Google's going to be a thing of the past, or they're just going to have their own version of AI?
What you mentioned was AEO, Ask Engine Optimization, which is different than search engine optimization. Search engine optimization, generally speaking, as I understand it, looks for keywords and certain meta tags. AEO is basically trying to get found by, ChatGPT as an example, Gemini or Claude or Perplexity. So yes, to answer your question, I know Google's numbers are going to go down because more and more people are going to be searching using, as an example, ChatGPT or Perplexity, etc. Now, for us as business owners, I know that I've got to change my website so I get both, by the way. I want to get found by Google, which now is at 89% of searches. And at the same time, because the numbers are going to get bigger with ChatGPT, I need to have more written word or Q&A or FYIs on my page to get found by those. I want to do both. I want to be able to be found by Google with their normal SEO and then by ChatGPT with their new AEO, without a doubt. I'm not a marketing guy, but I've dealt with enough big marketing gurus to know that there's been a shift. And by the way, Google does have Gemini, but their deal is still, which is Gemini, is Google's equivalent. What I would say is, why not try to capture both?
Hey, Kenner, this is Rep Butler, Wendy's husband. Great podcast. One of the questions that I have with the power structure that's necessary for everything going on with these centers, like you have Meta, you have Google, is there going to be a lack of the power companies or the power buildings to take care of all this? Because look at NVIDIA chips and the things they need. The wave of the future I'm sure is going to be much more streamlined and unnecessary for maybe our intelligence, but to create this intelligence is going to create a significant need of power. What's going to happen?
I don't know. You're totally right about that. Well, you've seen the Stargate thing, the $500 billion investment by the U.S., quasi-governmental elements there. Yeah, it takes mass power. I don't know the answer to your question, but it takes a lot of power. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward as it relates to the power usage by all the different AI chips, et cetera. That's a really good question. By the way, you're lucky to be married to Wendy. Nice work there, buddy.
I'm the luckiest man in America. I tell you what. Yeah.
I'm definitely the lucky one. But yeah, great question, Rhett. So one of the things that you and I had talked about earlier today, Kenner, was that you have your own podcast. And we were talking about your podcast. And I said, how often do you do it? You said daily. And I thought, wow, believe it or not, guys, it takes a lot of effort to get into these podcasts and get your guests lined up and all the things and make sure everything, your tech is running. Thank you to our tech team, Paul and Nigel, always the best tech team ever. And Jonathan and Dan Winters for helping us as well today. But you said, well, it doesn't take nearly as much time using AI. So I didn't go into depth with that today. I said, oh gosh, that's a good question for the podcast. So here I am. I'm asking it today. What are you doing with AI to help you with your podcast?
Yeah. Let me provide some background. So I remember back in the old days when you used to do your own podcast. Back in the day, you'd have to get everything all organized as far as all your guests. You had to, write all the emails out. Oh, such a pain. I can't believe I used to do that. And then after the podcast, you'd have to do have a video editor and or audio editor. And then you have to have a social media person who could help make sure all the clips were good for social media. It took forever, right? But now what we do, I won't say the brand, but right now what we do is we do I have an individual who communicates with the guests, but we could easily do that with AI, but I'm not, a long story. But then at the same time, right after our podcast, it automatically, we have some software that automatically, cuts and edits the pieces to work perfectly for SEO, et cetera, et cetera. So it's streamlined. It's so much quicker, right? Now, also what we were talking about, Eddie, Wendy, specifically is there's software apps that are out there now that are AI oriented that all you have to do is type in a prompt and somehow it does the whole podcast for you. You don't even have to do it. You can even automate that so you don't type in the prompts if you don't want to. So it's so much easier than it used to be. You don't even have to show up. That's the crazy thing nowadays. Like, think about that. Literally, it's all because of AI.
Okay, I think I'm gonna.
Why are we here? Why are we here? We should be doing we should have like cartoons of us on here. Like, okay, you got to show us what that is later on.
You have to join this community, I think, and get all these answers, of course. But yeah,
it's up to you guys. Yeah, we could 100%. We could have done all this based on that, and we wouldn't have had to show up.
Our new offer is coming up, ladies.
Our what?
Our new offer is coming up.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. Now, I will say this. I have been working on just learning how to edit our own podcast. I'm very hands-on with the tech. So I want to know how hard it is for our people to do it. And then I'll know, basically if I'm getting my money's worth on editing, right? So I noticed that in the editing software that I'm using, it's AI, and it just goes through, it cuts out all the pauses, pops out the ums and ands, which of course I'm guilty of using. And I thought, wow, and it will even turn it into social media clips like you were talking about. But I have a feeling that you have a lot more in-depth knowledge on that. So having said that, you can go to Kenner's, we've got his site pinned at the top, so you can go to all of the things that he's doing. And it's phenomenal with AI. From finance to podcasts to tax strategies. So be sure to follow him on his, all of his socials, and go to his website, join his community. And we're going to check out your podcast as well.
Yeah, please do. That's cool. I'm going to have you guys on it, as a matter of fact.
We would love it. Yeah, is it going to be us or is it going to be so it looks like us?
I could do both, but I'll have it so to you guys. And by the way, I think that will be very interesting to see if people are going to be okay with watching the, if you will, the AI or almost fake interviews versus otherwise. Because we have both right now, and you could kind of tell they're AI, but by the end of pretty soon, you're not going to be able to tell. You will not be able to tell.
So that's an interesting point, Kenner. So I'm working on some AI stuff for businesses to sort of reclaim their old leads, dead leads, and things like that. And it's an AI assistant who's going to actually make the call or text and interact with them. And you know, although the voices aren't completely robotic, but they're not completely human either. But what they're finding is most people don't really mind that they're not human. Sometimes people even prefer that they're not human. So, but because of AI, they can have this complete conversation with them, and you train it to, you know, follow a certain set of prompts, obviously, and behave, and then lead them to, say, a sales call or something of that nature. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes into entertainment and podcasts and other things like that.
Yeah. So how have you figured it? So like when I call my own AI, we have an AI answering service, if you will, and it drives me crazy, actually, to be more than blunt. But how have you found that the people are actually responding thus far or early on, Paul?
Well, I'm just in my infancy in going down this road, but the people that I'm working with, the people that I'm learning from, have gotten great response. You know, I mean, part of the issue is you've got some of these businesses that have 100 million, or I'm sorry, not 100 million, but let's say 100,000 leads, 10,000 leads that are all dead, right?
Yeah.
All these leads are dead. They're either going to have to pay somebody to just straight up call these people, where AI can do it and can dial 1,000 numbers at a time. You know, so there's no way that they could hire that many people to start re-engaging those leads. You know,
exactly right, Paul. You're totally right.
I do see Vashon has a question in the audience. Vashon, you want to come off your mic?
Yeah, no, I wanted, I'm trying to score a few brownie points to send this to a few clients about this R&D tax credit. I didn't really know about it, so maybe they don't either. So I just wanted to just kind of get a little bit of clarity. I'm actually like looking just to understand it a little bit better. So I want to make sure what I'm seeing is what you were speaking on, Kenner, right?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure I'm clear. So this is this is based on the R&D tax credit that can be used for R&D in general, but also applies to, you know, AI and automation projects, correct?
Yep. Yeah.
So what I'm seeing is that there is a 4-step process to be able to determine that. So the elimination of uncertainty. So like as far as like your product's process, so forth, the process of experimentation, technological in nature, and new or an improved business component for a permitted purpose. So I guess what I want to ask is like, how do you pass these tests? Like when you are actually applying for the credit, or I don't know if that's the right way to say it, how are you presenting that it's meeting each one of these set criteria? I know one is showing like your expenses and things of that nature related to employees and to the tools that you've invested in. But like, what else do you have to provide? You have to provide a brief or something along that lines? Or is this saying more than what you really have to do in actuality?
No, are you a tax provider?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
No, that's Vashon, and she's a really smart lady. Great question, Vashon.
Yeah, it's a great question. So yeah, when we do it, we just, and your tax provider would do the same thing. Just answer those questions, the 4 questions, just like Wendy basically did when I asked her. And you're not applying when you do your tax filing, you're including those answers and the supporting expenses to indicate that you are actually doing stuff that gets over that barrier of the 4 questions. Does that make sense, Vashon?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I guess, I was just trying to see, is this something kind of, complex thing, but, it doesn't seem like it is. You're just providing the documentation and answering the questions, and obviously which your tax professional would do. But I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding you.
Yeah, 100% right. So it is technical because you have to have supporting materials, but at the same time, if you have supporting materials, there's going to be a less likelihood that they're going to even come back and ask you questions. It's not. And by the way, now why is it? Although Wendy mentioned it, why is it now not cool, but more common for people to be able to get the research and development credit? And the answer to that is because of AI. AI fits a lot of those, or answers a lot of those 4 questions. As long as you're doing things again, that take care of those 4 questions, it's more common because everyone's using AI. They should be. Entrepreneurs at least have got to be thinking about using an AI, and if they are, they can get over those or answer those 4 questions. And then the tricky part is supporting it with the information as far as the expenses. But basically, what you've said is answer the question via. We do a document that outlines those 4 answers to the questions and then supporting materials.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Michonne. So I
want to jump in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wendy. And and that's why we have these rooms, is that we do promote entrepreneurship. We encourage people to go open their own businesses, research the ones that fit them, because if you don't have your own business, none of this conversation is going to take place, because you're a 9-to-5er. You're not going to be able to take any credit whatsoever. So I wanted to always encourage people, find something that you're interested in, go find those mentors to open that business, and then look in and find out what things you can deduct, as a business expense, but also what tax credit applies to your industry and what you're doing. So this is a very relevant topic, because we talk about this every Tuesday at 5 p.m., all business related, and also the side hustle that we are starting on Sundays is those businesses that come out of those ideas, and then reverse engineering that and talking to someone. If you're not talking to Kenner, you need to talk to somebody that has this knowledge to get these benefits. Do you agree?
Yeah,
Kenner?
think about it. Let's say you're a W-2 employee. There's only roughly seven things you can do to lower your taxes, and they're pretty simplistic, right? By the way, most people don't even do those. That's another issue. But as a side to that, though, let's say you open a side gig. Who knows? Maybe that side gig is going to be as cool as Google. I don't know, right? It's going to grow, right? Number 1. But number 2, yes, it does lower your taxes, generally speaking, if you have a side gig, right? Number 2. And then also number 3, you have 3 years. There's this thing called hobby loss rule. So you have 3 years to make that side gig profitable. I'm willing to bet you that if you have a side gig, you're probably going to be profitable, right? So think of those. That's the way I look at it. When I look at having a side gig, it makes sense to have a side gig. I was working with this big name AI Microsoft dude. They allow side gigs generally, as long as it doesn't compete with Microsoft. They allow side gigs at Microsoft. He was blown away by how much side consulting he ended up getting that was not in line with or competing with Microsoft. So just think about that story. Would you want to open a side gig, save taxes, and potentially make enough money to be able to leave Microsoft or whatever your employer is? Might make sense.
So Kenner, what is the minimum that people have to earn in a side gig to get the maximum benefit? Because I remember years ago, I made some money playing cards and I had to declare it, and it increased the value of my other businesses. The tax consequences went from like 30% to 51%. What do you recommend to people, and what is the minimum, even if they do something where they're making 10? What is there a minimum? Because it's a big difference for people that do something on the side. And a lot of people don't make money doing something on the side. So what do you recommend?
Because I was going to say, if you have to declare it, Rhett, that's not just a little money on the side. I'm just saying.
Well, mine was poker tournaments then, so it greatly affected my regular business because I wasn't used to paying a lot of taxes, and that was I paid 51% in taxes in 1 year. I felt like I was, taken advantage of, but there was no way around. So I'm just curious. People, I think everybody should have some side investment. We have a clothing business and a golf business now, and my son's accountant told him, William and Harry. They're all William and Harry. But that she said to him, if you invest in this, you can write off, as long as you do one post on social media a month, he can write off just about every single golf trip he does, because he's doing the advertisement. There's a lot of ways. Obviously, William and Harry is a great company, but what do you recommend to people? Because I know there's a minimum that you have to make to get the write-offs.
Yeah, it depends on the industry, but no, you could get the write-offs day one, dollar one, but it depends for it to make sense. But generally speaking, aside, what I will just say, go back, talk to your accountant, but what I would say is day one, dollar one, you should be able to save money tax-wise, especially if, who knows, you're getting some revenue from it coming in. Because think about it, depends on the state, but if you set up it could be a sole proprietorship or an LLC. LLCs are cheap now, right? Filings with the state are cheap now. And then think about this. Let's just say you're doing real estate and you live in California, you want to go to Texas. And let's just say 25% of your flight is deductible. Or no, the whole thing would be deductible, but you could save 25%, generally speaking, on your hotel, on your rental car, on your gas, and your food. So right there is a big tax savings, just using that as an example. So, think about it. If you're a W-2, you might as well at least give it a thought to having a side gig. And to answer your question, it really depends on the circumstances.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think everybody. I've never been a W-2 employee, but I think everybody should have something on the side, because it gives you a much better tax capability for savings. There's a lot more on your own personal, because nobody's paying you, you're paying other people. But I listened to your AI capabilities on tax savings, and I never knew about this. It's just incredible. This is that. It's such an eye opener. For, I'd say, the older generation, people like Wendy and I that are over 30. We need to learn some of these things. But I tell you what, it is funny though that the younger crowd assumes they know everything. But I've never heard of this, and we've been around a lot of smart people. This is the first. I don't know how many people in the room have ever heard of such a thing with tax savings with AI.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. By the way, you look over 30. Wendy doesn't.
That's what
guy.
I was getting ready to say.
He's the best. We
You
love
are
this
like
guy.
the best. He could be your best guest ever, honey.
We're having him back again and again. Yeah, it's great. I need to hear all that. But one of the things I was looking at your website, obviously, over the last few days, and you have so much to offer on that. What I love is that you are giving back. You've got all this information that you have accumulated over many years of being in business and going to school at Harvard, and it's all right there available on your website. You can learn so much. You've got your podcast going. You've got multiple office locations around the world. And how do you do it all, Ken, or how do you balance all that? Obviously the AI plays a part of it. I'm like, are you going to write the AI 4-hour work week or something like that?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do it without AI. There's no doubt about that, because we don't have that many employees. We've employed AI to make it so much more efficient. Number one. Number two, what I would say is it's my team. I have a really cool team, really good team. It's not just me. I like to take the credit, but it's not my credit. It's really my staff's credit. But it's really, a lot of it's based on artificial intelligence, which I think is pretty cool.
And your community that you have, how does that work? Is it like a once a week thing, or I haven't looked into it? Actually, you gave me a link to get in, but I haven't had an opportunity to get in there. Can you tell us about it? Sure.
Our we have right now, 2 different tiers. Number one, we have a tier where it's free. Mass content goes in there. Tax, finance, artificial intelligence. And then we have a paid one for $199 a month. And we're meeting all the time. We have there's every piece of our content from 1969, which is none, but to recently, which is a lot, is put in there. The object is to add as much value to our people as possible, our community. We have 600 and something people who are in that paid community. And what I would say is it adds unbelievable value to our business owners because it's made specifically really for, kind of the solopreneur, the person who just isn't giving advice because they're kind of the forgotten about person. Because I get what it's like. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm the forgotten about person. And what I would say is it's grown exponentially. And I would say that component is largely because we have, AI. It sits on our AI model platform called Einstein, and that's largely automated, which has been a huge, huge deal. Now, also, as far as our information, we just signed a deal. There's this thing called the MIT Open Source Initiative, where a large percentage of our stuff is going to be open source and people could have access to it all, mainly for free. So that's going to be coming out here pretty soon. And that's a big deal, meaning our technology. More to follow about that. That's a pretty cool deal.
And you were saying you have a new app as well coming out.
Yeah, we have a new, it's out, but we haven't really announced it per se, but in 2 weeks is when everyone's going to be able to get on our app and then obtain information into our community.
Wow, I love it. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? I know we've covered a lot of information today. Anybody have anything they want to ask? Everybody's being quiet today. I know we've got a big audience over on several other platforms. And if you get a chance, guys, on those other platforms, you should come over to Chatter where you can be a part of our live audience and be able to ask our guest. And we have amazing guests. We're here every Tuesday, 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, live in front of a live audience on Chatter Social. Just giving the plug on that because it's really invaluable to be able to get access to guests like Kenner who have such specialized information that is literally pertainable to any business out there. And we do appreciate you taking the time today to go over all this with us.
I'm going to throw something out. Can I throw something out?
Sure.
Because these people, most of these people, or they know of you who are in here, correct?
Yes, I think so, yes.
All right. So, all right. What I'm going to do is anyone who emails us at info@vastsolutionsgroup.com, info@vastsolutionsgroup.com, we will give them access to, for 1 year, access to our paid community, which is $199 a month, $199 a month.
Wowzers. Listen to that, guys. That's incredible.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't know that. We didn't know that. That was on the spot. That was very generous, Kenner. Thank you so much.
I just, because you guys are really cool. Talking to Wendy, she's really cool. And Red, of course, is really cool because he's married to Wendy and all. So I was like, I'm kind of in the mood to do it. You know what I mean? I think it'll add value to a lot of the people. And based on the stuff we've talked about, I think it'll add some value. And again, info@vastsolutionsgroup.com. We'll give you guys credit.
You got to use promo code Daphne Christine. They can't spell it. You'll never get anybody to be fined. Just kidding. No, but it's Vast Solutions Group. So info@V as in Victor, VAST solutions.com. Is that right?
Group. Info@vastsolutionsgroup.com. Yeah, Daphne.
There you go. Absolutely.
Can
How great is that?
Thank you. Put that in the chat for our studio audience, please. And so when they go to that and then they just put in that they were on the podcast today, is that what they need to do, Ken?
I don't know. I just thought of it. I don't know. My staff will figure it out. I don't know. I have no clue. I'll let them, when I'm done with this, I'll let them know that I okayed that because they're going to be like, what are all these emails from,
Listen, I tell you guys, since this is evergreen material, you guys got to get in there fast. We're going to cap it, or it's got to have a code there, or you're going to be in trouble. So let's put, you got to put RainMakers. You got to put RainMakers.
RainMakers. RainMakers. RainMakers. I think that should be it. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Wow. I didn't think of that.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to come in here, give us all these great nuggets. We appreciate it so much, Kenner.
No
and guys, if you don't check out the website and take advantage of this, you're really missing out on obviously cutting edge technology and information from Kenner French here from Vast Solutions Group. So anybody else?
I want to jump in real quick. Thank you, Kenner, for dropping in. throw in some gems for us. And as we're building out these podcasts, we're going to be putting everyone that has been a speaker. We're going to create a link for all of that. So people will be consistently reaching out to you. And we want to thank everyone for showing up today and giving us support. And every Tuesday in the same room at 5 p.m. Eastern. So I wanted to say thank you so much.
Awesome.
Daphne, any last minute things before we close this thing out, because we're at the top of the hour?
Yeah, Kenner French, you are one cool dude. I really appreciate your expertise, your knowledge, your time, and your wisdom, and most importantly, that generosity. I cannot believe what you just offered to only our studio audience here. So get in where you fit in, you guys. One more time, that was info@vastsolutionsgroup.com. Kenner French, we appreciate you so much. With that, I will let Miss Wendy Butler close the room. You guys better be here next Tuesday, 5 p.m. Eastern, chattered live, right?
Next Tuesday. Before we go, I do want to get a photo of all our guests here. So everybody, get your eyes open.
She always makes me fluff before we go.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Credit, turn your mic off. Turn your mic on. Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, guys. And I do always like to say a special thank you to our tech team, Paul Perez, Nigel on, and Jonathan Bing and Dan Winters for helping us to stream to multiple platforms. We totally appreciate that. And to our sponsors, William and Harry Golf. You can find that at williamandharry.com. Everything luxury golf, because let me tell you guys, a lot of deals being made on the golf course. You need to look good.
That's right.
And also for Jonathan for helping us bring audiences in, and Daphne, and let's everybody go and support the hallway, and especially Debate the News is about to start soon. So definitely float over there and let's continue the conversation. Bye, Kenner. Anything last minute, Kenner?
This has been fun. You guys are awesome. Seriously.
We told you it was going to have to be a good time, right?
Yeah, you guys are cool. You guys are really cool.
We had a great time with you, Kenner. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to end the room, and we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody.